In this brief presentation, I would like to explain to you briefly what we were working on with Alina recently. And it is that we tried to figure out whether there are some areas where AI consistently outperforms intuition, or where intuition consistently outperforms AI. Because if you are asking AI researchers, they will tell you that AI is better. If you ask intuition researchers, they will tell you that intuition works better. In order to figure this out, we have found the concept of uncertainty as defined by Frank Knight particularly useful. In order to understand that, I will give you an example from the casino world. When you are entering a casino in Las Vegas, you will give some money at the counter to the girl sitting there, and she will give you a set of chips. And you know exactly how many chips will you get for the money that you have given. So this is certainly, it can be precisely calculated. Then you start your journey in the casino, and first you stop by the roulette table. What you can do at the roulette table, you can bet, for example, even or odd numbers, red or black colors, and so on. You can, you know exactly that you have slightly less than 50% chance to win if you bet either red or black, either even or odd numbers, because you have the 0, which is green, and it is neither odd nor even. Now, these two, certainty and risk, together form a realm that we call known. Why? Because these things are precisely known. The nature of the reality is different in the two cases. However, our knowledge of it can be perfect. For this, we don't need AI, we don't need intuition, we only need good database processes, and they can deal with that. So I want to exclude this part from our conversation for the rest. So what we are left with outside the known is the uncertainty. However, there are two types of uncertainty that we found worth distinguishing based on the four characteristics described by J.C. Spender. First, we have the unknown uncertainty. This is, in principle, possible to know, we just happen not to know it. So if you continue with the example in the casino, if you go to play blackjack, you could, in principle, know the cards, convert this thing into a risky situation rather than uncertainty. However, most of us cannot count the cards. There is too much data, too fast counting, and so on. So for most people, this will remain uncertainty. But in principle, it is a knowable uncertainty. It is simply our ignorance causing it to be uncertainty. And there is a different type of uncertainty which we call unknowable uncertainty. And this is what you experience if you sit to play poker, for example, instead of the previous ones. Why? Because you are playing against your partners, and your partners will have different ways of bluffing. The same cards in the hand will mean different things to one and to the other, and so on. JC says that there are three different things here. One is the indeterminacy, which means that my partners at the card table will have different experiences, therefore they will differently make sense of the same situation, and so on. I am also a subjective participant here, and I have all my own experience based on which I make my subjective judgments, and we seem to be all incommensurable paradigms that basically knowing one does not help you knowing the other. And finally, the tacit knowledge plays an incredibly important role in the unknowable uncertainty, and that means that basically those things that are most relevant to a particular situation might belong in the tacit domain. For example, how I make sense of my partners at the table. Now, with this in mind, we can try first to look at the realm of unknown. So what happens in the unknown if we are decision makers? Well, decision makers will use their intuitions because, as I said before, for them it is uncertainty, which is in principle knowable, but they cannot do that. Okay, so these are the ignorant decision takers. So what they do is that they use their intuition, which we describe as usual in this symposium as a form of direct knowing, and we are very keen on emphasizing that it is rooted in the sensory realm, which does not only cover the 5 senses, but also, for example, visceral sensations such as hunger, affective sensations such as love, or mental sensations such as the sense of pride. So various sensory realms are involved in this. And of course, intuition deals with the whole situation, and it is tacitly happening. And why the decision takers do that? Because they cannot engage in the analysis, because they are ignorant of the relevant facts that would be needed for processing, or simply they cannot process them. Now, what can AI do in the knowable unknown? Well, AI can help us a lot here because it can process a lot of data, far more than we can. And the reason that it is not simply databases is that AI can identify patterns. Now, what AI cannot do is that it cannot make sense of the patterns. So AI can transfer a situation from the unknown to the known domain, and therefore bringing us from uncertainty to certainty. But on its own, it is not sufficient. Why? Because when AI finds a huge number of patterns, we still need to make a judgment about the significance of those patterns. And that's where we need intuition of those experts who understand the field, but they may not be able to process all the data in the field. Now, what happens when we go to the third realm, the unknowable uncertainty? Well, this is a very different area. So here, the AI-fueled navigation is impossible. Think about it like you are in some sort of desert where everything looks the same. There are no markers. You have no idea where you are. When you look at your GPS or your mobile phone, there is no signal. So you cannot figure out where you are, which way your goal is, or where you need to go, anything. So anything that we learned about decision making does not apply anymore, because the knowing before we go is completely out of question. Now, what intuitive decision makers can do in these cases? They can have a sense of where they are. They can, intuition can sense the right direction, and intuitive decision makers may recognize the destination once they see. So although it cannot be known in advance, there is a way of know as we go, in which we can actually find our way in this unknowable realm. But it's also very important that although intuition is definitely the dominant tool here, it is not necessarily does not necessarily mean that AI cannot play any role, because AI can be very helpful with processing data real time for us and identifying patterns at the place where we are currently and in the direction in which we are turning. Now, in summary, what that means for us? It means that AI is a great tool for the unknown, for the knowable uncertainty. And this means that AI research should focus in this realm. Intuition is a fantastic tool for the unknowable uncertainty, and intuition research should therefore focus on this. Now, what is the most difficult thing is how to tell apart the unknown and the unknowable, because sometimes the delineation is not clear. It is not clear where one thing ends and the other begins, and these also may change over time. And we suggest that this is the task of research philosophy, to figure out the delineation of the two here and now. Thank you very much for listening.